Greetings, salutations, respect and love, all you denizens of the prog rock universe. You know who you are. Welcome to the Prog Corner. Today, we're doing the top 25 prog vocalists of all time. Come on in here, Roxy. We're going to have a good time here. Yeah, my dog's going to hang out with me while I shoot this video as per usual. Let's get started, shall we? At number 25, it's Roger Chapman from Family. This was the guy that got the UK used to the certain kind of singing. Boy, the first time I heard Family, I'm like, wow, I guess I figured out where Peter Gabriel got his singing style from. He was born in 1942 in Leicester. He was a big fan of Little Richard and Ray Charles, so he tried to do his voice in different ways. It's that vibrato that really makes him stand out. Their first couple records were just amazing. Music in a Doll's House in 1968 in particular. The Beatles had to change the name of the White Album because they were going to call that album Music from a Doll's House, but they had to change it. After Family broke up, Roger formed a band called Streetwalkers, and they are notable because they had a drummer named Nico McBrain, who you might know from Iron Maiden later on at number 24. It's Daniel Gildenlow from Sweden. Yeah, he was originally in a band called Reality when he was 11 years old. He formed this band. He changed the name to Pain of Salvation with his brother in tow. He's an amazing singer. He's got such emotion to his voice. All of Pain of Salvation's albums are kind of concept albums, so he really digs deep into the emotional crevices of his soul. He's been tied to Transatlantic. He was the fifth member of Transatlantic for a couple of tours. He was a member of the Flower Kings for a couple of records. Unfold the Future and Adam and Eve. Just amazing. The debut album for Pain of Salvation and Tropia came out in 97. But to me, their two best works are 2000's Perfect Element and 2002's Remedy Lane. They dropped a really good album in 2020 called Panthers. Yeah, great stuff. Daniel Gildenlow, just amazing. What a great singer at number 23. This guy's not a great singer, but Roger Waters has got to be included on this list. He absolutely has to. His bandmate David Gilmour, not so fortunate. But Roger Waters was the voice of Pink Floyd ever since Sid left. Yeah, David had his time in the sun after the final cut, but Roger Waters was the singer. He was the lyricist. His dad was a communist, member of the UK Communist Party, but he kind of had a change of heart and joined the army. He died at the Battle of Inzio in Italy. I guess they have a statue of him up there. At 15, Roger was the chairman of the Youth Campaign for Nuclear Disarmament. His politics are probably what we're talking most about, but I love Roger. I love his voice. It fits Pink Floyd perfectly. And at number 23, I think that's a fair place for him. At number 22, we're going to Poland and Mariusz Duda, the great singer from Riverside. He's got solo albums. His great side project, Lunatic Soul, unbelievable. I love his singing. Similar to Steven Wilson. People have called him the Polish Steven Wilson. That's completely unfair. He was in a band called Xanadu in 2001, which then became Riverside. When the band first started, they tried him singing in Polish. I guess they realized his English was great, and he sounded even better in English. Fantastic. Mariusz Duda. Love him. At number 21, I went back and forth on whether or not to include Phil Collins, but you gotta include Phil Collins. Come on. He was a lead singer for the second greatest band in the history of mankind. Yeah, Phil Collins is gonna be here, born January 30th, 1951. There's only 3 artists in the history of the world that have sold 100 million copies as a member of a band and as a solo artist. Phil Collins is one of those 3. Name the other 2 for me if you can. I don't know if you can. He had 7 number 1 singles, U.S. number 1 hits. I mean, this guy was everywhere in the 80s. He owned the 80s. and he's got a terrific voice. You listen to those early vocal outings for Absent Friends and More Fool Me, and his voice is so delicate, and he's really shy, and he's kind of afraid of the microphone, you can tell, but it didn't take him long. Once he got the microphone duties full time, Trick of the Tail still kind of sounds like Gabriel, but by Wind and Wuthering, he'd gotten his complete own style. Totally deserving to be on this list. I know he went pop. I know Genesis went pop. But he's Phil Collins, people. Come on, man. At number 20, it's Bjrk, Goodman's daughter. If we're talking about the greatest prog singers of all time, you got to look at Bjrk. She's just nuts. Her first band was called Kooky, and then she was in a great indie band called Sugar Cubes that put out 3 albums that I really, really liked a lot. Yeah. Her solo work, debut, post, the shrieks, the howls. I mean, this girl's voice is just insane. It's crazy. She does things to her voice that human beings really shouldn't be allowed to do. At number 19, it's the great Neil Morse. Yeah. Is he a great singer? I don't know, but to me, he's a great rock and roll singer. He's got that rock and roll heart. He listened to all the same records I listened to growing up, so I understand where he's coming from with every single thing he sings. I love his ability to cheat his voice. He doesn't have a real high register. I think right now, probably maybe F sharp is about as high as he can hit right now, but he cheats with some cool falsetto tricks that extends his range quite a bit. And he's Neil Morse. Come on, people. He's Neil Morse. He's on the list. Absolutely he is. At number 18. Yeah, I was just listening to him this morning. It's Michael Sadler and Saga. I don't know why I got on a big Saga kick last night and into this morning, and I listened like 4 or 5 Saga albums back to back. Wow, I love his voice. He actually moved up a few spots as a result. He's currently, working with Ryo Okamoto and a bunch of guys in something called the Project, where they bring the great prog songs of yesteryear back to a current audience, where they play Yes and Genesis and King Crimson and Pink Floyd and stuff. He also appears on Ryo's new solo album, Myth of the Mostrofus. Michael Sadler's just incredible. He's sung on every single Saga album except for 2009's The Human Condition. So he's on 21 of 22 Saga albums. That ain't bad. And they even had a couple of hits. Wind 'Em Up and On the Loose. Those were great MTV songs, man. I remember MTV playing those and just loving it. Really, really good. At number 17, we're going to Germany. This is an odd one, but Renate Kopp definitely needs a look-see. She's a weird one, man. I'm telling you, her voice is out there. It's kind of like a deranged Grace Slick sometimes, but she makes the list primarily because I really love what she does as a background vocalist and as a lead vocalist. Either way you put her in, she's amazing. The things she does, I'm on Duel 2 songs. Just incredible. They would not be the same band without her. Just listen to Carnival and Babylon if you want to hear how great she is. I love her. She's amazing. At number 16, the voice of an entire genre, voice of an entire scene, it's Richard Sinclair. He's probably one of the most notable artists in that Canterbury scene. Lead singer for the Wildflowers, Caravan, Hatfield in the North. Later on, he joined Camel. This guy's done it all. He has that quintessential British kind of wry humor in how he sings. It's just a complete diametric opposite to what I was listening to with, the John Andersons and the Peter Gabriels of the world. Richard Sinclair is completely on the other side of the spectrum, but I love it. He's amazing. So British, so cool. At number 15, it's Kate Bush. Yeah, she has to make this list. If you're talking about prog rock singers, Kate Bush is on top of the world right now from that Netflix show, whatever. She was born July 30th, 1958. And I just found out that she was the very first female artist to hit number 1 on the UK album charts. I did not know that with her third album, Never Forever. All 10 of her albums hit the UK top 10. And her nephew is in Sid Arthur. I did not know that. I love Sid Arthur. What a great band. Raven Bush. That's very, very cool. She's worked with Peter Gabriel. She's worked with David Gilmour. She's worked with Gary Brooker. She doesn't need any more credentials to prove she's prog. She's Kate Bush, for crying out loud. At number 14. David Longden, R.I.P. dude. He died last year. He was born in 1965. He tried out for Genesis, which is weird because his future bandmate, Nick DiVirgilio, would get the drumming gig. David Longden did not get the vocalist gig. That went to Ray Wilson after Phil Collins left Genesis. But he'd get his big break in 2009 when he joined Big Big Train, along with David Gregory from XTC and Nick DiVirgilio from Spock's Beard. David Longden, man, he has that Gabriel kind of voice. Sure, he does. But, he's got a new solo album coming out later this year. Last year, he put out a record with the Fairport Convention's great singer, Judy Dibble, who left us also. So, the two principals on that album both left us. He's worked with Dave Kersner. He worked with The Tangent. I just love David Longden. I love his voice. I love his storytelling. I love his stage presence. What a humongous loss for the prog community. Just terrible, just awful. But his memory will never die. He put out so many great records that he will never, ever be forgotten. At number 13, it's Sonia Christina Shaw. I guess that was her actual last name, shortened it to Sonia Christina, born April 14th, 1949 in Essex. She was Chrissy in the London production of Hair. The house band was actually all the guys in Curved Air. So when they decided that they wanted to do a little something, obviously the idea was to bring her in. Sonia had to be that lead singer. They had a drummer by the name of Stuart Copeland there for a while, whom she ended up getting married to. They were married for 10 years, from 1982 to 1991. And Stuart Copeland was quoted as saying that as a drummer, he never really paid any attention to singers until Sonia Christina came into his life. The quote was, "She's not even singing yet, and she owns everything." And that says it all. Her time working in the Playboy Club probably got her used to the attention and being on stage and having males ogle at her. Just Sandy Denny was in the Straubs for a minute. She quit, and then Sonia kind of joined Straubs for a quick little second. I don't remember that, but what a voice, what a woman, what a great front person. Curved Air, really cool. She totally deserves to be on here. And she had a guest appearance on the latest You Can Chrono Ship album, and I love that too. At number 12, it's Justin Hayward, somebody that I've kind of been sleeping on here a little bit. I don't talk about the Moody Blues near enough on this channel. He was born October 14th, 1946 in Swindon, the same hometown as my personal favorite songwriter of all time, Andy Partridge. He answered a Melody Maker advert that Eric Burden had put out. He was helping the guys in the Moody Blues look for a replacement for Denny Lane. And in comes Justin Hayward. He was a perfect fit. And if you look at the Moody Blues track record of hits, almost all of them were Justin, from Nights in White Satin to Tuesday Afternoon to the more current stuff like Your Wildest Dreams. That's all Justin. His voice is velvety, it's buttery, it's amazing. He's one of my favorite singers of all time. And that 1975 album, Blue Jays, he did with John Lodge is incredible too. At number 11, it's Steve Walsh, ladies and gentlemen. Born in St. Louis in 1951. He and his family moved to Kansas at some point. He gets hooked up with the guys in Kansas. I guess they were called White Clover at the time. He left in 1980, but came back in 88. In 80, he put out his first solo album, Schemer Dreamer. In 2000, his second solo album, Glossolalia came out. But, the story is back in 74, the boys in Kansas are recording their first album. And yeah, they'd been working with Steve for a few years. They knew he was a good singer. But the story goes they had no idea just how good he was until they started laying down vocal tracks and they, hit the playback and they listened back in the studio with their own ears. And they said they were just absolutely amazed. They had no idea that they had one of the greatest singers in the history of the world in their band. And they absolutely did until cocaine ruined it all. And number 10, it's Derek William Dick, better known by his stage name Fish. And if you had a name like that, you'd probably want to go with a stage name too. He was born outside Edinburgh, Scotland in April of 1958. He joined Marillion in 1981, did 4 great albums with them. His solo career has been wonderful. He's got 11 great albums. 2020's Weltschmerz, he's promised will be his final album. And if that is true, what a great swan song. There are very few singers who are able to just hold an audience in the palm of their hand the way Fish does. Yeah, number 10 is Fish. At number 9, it's the great John Wetton, born in Derbyshire in 1949. One of his earliest breaks was getting to perform on stage at the Isle of Wight Festival with Renaissance. He later went on to join Family. He was in Uriah Heep. He was in Roxy Music. He was in King Crimson. He was in UK. He was in Wishbone Ash. And of course, did I say Asia? I think I did. Whatever. He is a left-handed dude, so he signed autographs with his left hand, but he played bass right-handed. But that voice, that's what we're talking about today. That amazing baritone of his, it had so much power. There was something about the way John sang. It always sounded like every note was just a little bit out of his reach, but somehow he managed to hit it every time. It was always exciting and thrilling to hear that inner battle going on with every single song he ever sung. I love John Wetton's voice so much. He's just amazing. At number 8, we're going to Italy, and you knew this guy was going to make the list. It's Francesco Dgiacomo from the great Banco del Motore Soccorso. Oh, this big boy with that operatic voice, with that vibrato, man. The spirit of Italian opera just consumed this guy as he consumed plenty of food along the way, apparently. He was a big boy, but oh my goodness, the pipes this guy had. Woo! Ding dong, darling. Oh, man, he's so good. He was born in Sardinia in 1947. He left us in 2014 in a car accident. Guess when he was 5, the family moved to Rome. He met Vittorio Nacenzi and Banco was formed. What an amazing band they were. And a humongous reason for that was that big giant of a man in the center with a microphone in his hand just laying it down. If you don't know Banco, if you haven't heard this guy sing, do yourself a favor, kids. And number 7, this girl was going to be here. It's Annie Haslam, born June 8th, 1947 in Bolton. Wow. Yeah, Annie. What a voice on her, the voice of an angel. Yeah, the first 2 Renaissance albums had a different lineup, but when she joined the band, everything started coming together. This girl had a 5-octave range. I don't think she does anymore. Time is not really super kind to any of us. But at the peak of her career, she had a 5-octave range. Just think about that for a second. My guitar doesn't even have 5 octaves on it. It's insane. It's crazy. And at some point in time, she was engaged to Roy Wood. That doesn't even make sense. I didn't know that. She now lives in Pennsylvania, and Renaissance do go out on tour occasionally and do the occasional thing. But Annie Haslam, man, wow. Oh, yeah, number 6. Kind of going the opposite end of the spectrum here. We're talking about Peter Hamill, where Annie Haslam was classically trained, took opera lessons and stuff. This guy here, Peter Hamill, sounds like he's just a demon sometimes. He uses every single ounce of his energy to emote these weird things going on. Somebody once said that Peter Hamill sings in the same way Jimi Hendrix played guitar. all emotion, no technique, and I think that's probably pretty accurate. Dude had a heart attack in 2003, but apparently he's okay because Vandergraaf Generator has been still releasing some records along the way. He married his wife Hillary in 1978. They got 3 kids. You know, everybody was a fan of Peter Hamill, even those punks that were, wearing those I hate Pink Floyd t-shirts. They secretly loved Vandergraaf Generator, Johnny Lydon, all of them. They did. Don't let them lie to you. At number 5, it's Gary Lee. Well, actually, it's Geddy Lee. But his birth name was Gary. His Yiddish mom had difficulty pronouncing Gary, so it always came out Geddy. So it caught on. Both of Geddy's parents were Auschwitz survivors. They were Polish Jews that immigrated after World War II to Canada. His dad died very young. Yeah, Geddy, everybody knows about Rush and his history there. That weird falsetto that Geddy sings in, it drives some people crazy. I really like it. I've never had an issue with it. But then again, I've always been a big John Anderson fan, so why would I have a problem with Geddy Lee, right? One solo album. That's all Geddy put out in 2000. My favorite Headache. I really do like it. It's a good record. Geddy married his wife Nancy in 1976. They have 2 kids. Geddy Lee, you are the man, and you are the number 5 prog singer of all time. Number 4, R.I.P. the great Greg Lake. Oh, you talk about a voice sent from heaven. Well, until it got ruined, but all the way through the 70s, Greg's voice. Oh man, oh man, oh man. This guy could sing anything. He had a very particular style, but it was so smooth and it was actually translatable in that, radio could pick up a song like Lucky Man and it could be a hit, but then he could just rage on with Carnival 9 Part 3, talking about robots and machines taking over with equal aplomb, equal gravitas in his voice. Greg Lake left us in 2016. He was in the Gods with Ken Hensley at some point. He and Robert Fripp had shared the same guitar teacher back in the day. So when King Crimson was about over, then he started talking to Emerson, and Emerson, Lake and Palmer happened. It's so sad. He died 9 months after Keith Emerson died. He was survived by his wife, Regina, and they had 1 daughter, Natasha. Very private man. A lot of people didn't even know he was sick. What a sad, sad day Greg Lake died. A giant left this planet. At number 3, it's Ian Anderson, born in 1947, right outside Fife, Scotland. The family moved to Blackpool in 1959. He's one of the very few prog guys to ever make the cover of Time magazine. In 1973, he did that. In 2013, Prog Magazine named him Prog God. Absolutely fitting. Here's another little piece of trivia I had no idea about. His son-in-law is Andrew Lincoln from The Walking Dead. Didn't know that. That's pretty cool. He claims that he's lost his voice, and if you've seen Jethro Tull lately or listened to the last couple Jethro Tull records, you realize that he doesn't have the same singing voice that he had. He claims he's got COPD from the smoke machines that Tull was using on stage all those years. He's a salmon farmer now, doing everything. I love Ian Anderson. His voice is cool. Is it the greatest voice in the world? I don't know. I love it. I think it's really great. Whatever. At number 2, you guys know what are on these 2 cards. You know it. I know it. Everybody knows it. At number 2, it's John Anderson. Yeah, I know I'm disappointing a few of y'all with this one. Born John Roy Anderson, John with an H. He took the H out in 1970. He was born in Accrington, which is in the north, and I guess his dad was from Glasgow, which explains why John has such a really interesting and bizarre accent. It's not a Scottish accent. It's not a northern accent. He speaks like him. Nobody else talks like John. He had no interest in being a singer until his brother Tony joined his band called the Warriors and it recruited him. For a very short minute, he played like 3 or 4 gigs with a band called The Gun in 1968 when they were opening for The Hoop. I did not know that, which is another weird little thing, and that The Gun, their first album, was Roger Dean's very first album cover. That's kind of cool. He went to work at a bar called La Chase, owned by Jack Berry. Jack Berry is the guy that introduced John Anderson to Chris Squire, and so therefore without Jack Berry there would have never been a Yes. And here's another weird one. John Anderson is godfather, or was godfather, to the late Ari Up from the Slits. I have no idea about that. John's played with everybody from Vangelis to Cataro to Mike Oldfield to Roy Nastalt to King Crimson. He even was on a recent album by The Battles, which is really cool. I love John Anderson. It really hurts me to put him at number 2. But when you got this guy hanging around, there's only one place for him to be. It's number 1. It's Peter Gabriel, born February 3rd, 1950. He's an art rock innovator. He's a world music ambassador. He's the greatest prog rock singer of all time. He just pips John Anderson just this much, primarily due to the strength of the solo material. John had one great solo album. Pete had a few. The first album was great. The second album, produced by Fripp, was okay. That third album was just incredibly groundbreaking, really moving the needle. The fourth album was incredible with that Fairlight synthesizer. The fifth album got him all famous and whatnot. Come on, man. John Anderson does not have that same quality of solo discography. Therefore, I am giving the nod to Gabriel for that reason, and also for when Pete sings the New Jerusalem at the end of Supper's Ready. It kills me every single time, without fail. Yeah, it's Peter Gabriel. He's my number 1, and he's been inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame not once but twice. With Genesis in 2010 and as a solo artist in 2014. So Peter Gabriel tops my list of the greatest prog rock singers of all time. Anyway, this was a lot of fun. I know I missed a lot of people. Jeff Tate, Jeff Mann. Somebody was asking about Joachim Skarsberg or whatever that dude's name is. I'm sorry. Not everybody makes the list. You know, I even cheated and went to 50 with honorable mentions and still couldn't cram them all in there. I love you guys. I will see you soon. Maybe I'll do an album review tomorrow. Who knows? Who knows what we're doing? It's all good in the hood. Peace.